And we're going to start with the famous Marcia Clark, author of the fabulous Guilt by Degrees. You have several books out now, and we're going to show them. So anybody who wants to get them over the course of this hour, you'll know exactly what they are. But you know, there it is, Guilt by Degrees. Marcia, you know exactly what it's like to be at the very center of this white hot spotlight, this high-profile trial, and all the stress it brings. You gained fame as the prosecutor of the O.J. Simpson case. And during that trial, the entire world was watching. I believe we even have some video of that trial from way back in the mid-90s. I was a local TV newscaster during that time, and we spent hours and hours, and I'm embarrassed to say it, Marcia, discussing your hairstyle. The entire world was watching every word that came out of your mouth. What's it like in terms of stress? Because stress can create migraines, not just for the defendant, but for people who are arguing the case on either side. This is a pressure cooker. I don't think anybody who's not right in the thick of it can even begin to comprehend what a pressure cooker it is, Marcia.
Yeah, it's true. It's an enormous pressure cooker. That's a really great way of putting it, Jane. Well put. But it's funny because with all of that that's going on, and it is crazy, and there's an enormous tension. There's a great deal of heat and tension in the courtroom because everybody's watching inside the courtroom. It's packed. And yet when you sit down at counsel table and you're facing the witness stand, it's kind of like a tunnel vision. That's all I saw. I saw the jury, I saw the judge, I saw the witness, and of course the defense table if I needed to, and focused forward. And so there was a way of just completely blocking it all out. It was actually when I left the courtroom that I remembered how much scrutiny there was and how many people were watching, and that was only because reporters were literally allowed to stand outside the courtroom door and shove microphones in our faces, which they're not allowed to do anymore. There's a certain no-fly zone around the courtroom so that the lawyers can move in and out. But that's when you could really feel it.
Marcia Clark, when you think about it, and I'm sure you can relate to this, her attorneys are the same people who are buying this idea that she's a victim of domestic violence, and don't bat an eye that she lied repeatedly. First said wasn't there, then said 2 masked ninjas came in and killed Travis, and she miraculously escaped. I mean, if you've suspended disbelief to that point, well, the sky's the limit.
Well, for sure. I mean, look, at the defense, regardless of what these lawyers believe in their hearts, you know, when they're alone in a room at night, away from Jodi in the courtroom, is one thing. And what they're going to present to the world is quite another. And they have to present the best defense they possibly can and present it as though they believed it themselves, or else they're never going to sell it to a jury. And let me correct one thing. The prosecution is getting ready for this cross-examination now, always. The minute the witness takes the stand, they're taking notes, they're preparing, they're getting ready. So even if they stretch this witness's testimony out until Monday or Tuesday, the prosecution is going to have the weekend to prepare with what she said so far, which is quite a lot. She's really given the bulk of her testimony. And it's really common, Jane, for these experts to be limited to talking in general about what is the theory behind domestic violence and what happens with abuse victims and their symptomology, and not be allowed to tie it specifically to the parties involved. That's very common. But, you know, it's up to the lawyer in closing argument then to connect the dots, and they will, and I'm sure the jury's able to connect the dots too, because this expert has already talked about many of the things that Jodi testified to. The jury's not going to miss that. They're going to get it. The expert's not allowed to say it out loud, but make no mistake, the prosecution is getting prepared as we speak, and they will be prepared when it's time to cross-examine whenever it happens.